Well, hello and welcome back to the second round of the Skip Barber eRace series. The 8-round championship heads from Laguna Seca all the way over to Belgium into the province of Liège, which hosts one of the greatest ribbons of racetrack the world has ever seen, Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. Loved by most, this 4.3-mile circuit has hosted some of the biggest championships in the world. Racing has happened here for nearly 100 years, 1921, the first race at this venue. Fast forward 99 years then, and it's our turn to tackle the circuit. As it was a week ago, myself, Lewis McLeod, alongside me, Elliot Bishop, the tight and twisty circuit of Laguna Seca is replaced with this wide open beast of a track that should see some of the craziest racing all season.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've all seen plenty of videos, not only of head-to-head racing, but also some interesting collisions over the years. We've seen in Formula One and in some other series. This is a very, very fast track, so there is a lot of opportunity for passing and also some opportunity for some collisions. And with collisions as the subject, last round, not season, but round, we actually saw some really, really, really close racing within the series, which we were both expecting, obviously, with the format of all these cars being the exact same. And I'm looking forward to more of that here, Lewis, today, as these drivers, are able to qualify through the Skip Barber series and ultimately earn their way onto track. And I'm hoping to see some clean racing going forward.
Yeah, of course, we've got most of the same names that we saw last time out in Laguna Seca. Obviously, Johnny Guindy, our championship leader after taking both victories back then, obviously a week ago, comes into this with a decent lead in the championship. But it's definitely, obviously, it's not set. So, plenty of rounds to go, plenty of races to go. And a racetrack like this, it's sort of a bit of a danger zone because the thing is, it's very easy to lose sight of a race victory through slipstream and stuff like that. Coming into this, just to give you a bit of reference, as they're going in qualifying at the moment, about to come round to start their first laps of the session. Interesting that Guindy is heading the field and not decided to drop back behind someone else and pick up some slipstream, because that could be a big deal here. Guindy topped the hot lap qualifiers coming into this, so he comes in again, the number one on his car. The numbers reference to the position that they were on the leaderboard. It was a 2:25.138 that he set around the circuit, and Cadwalder, who is second in the championship, finished second in both races last time, a 2:25.359 to him, so a couple of tenths difference between the two of them. Obviously, they've gone through the Skip Barber racing school, and so they've learned some things from our instructors and stuff, and they've had a lot of help to get these cars up to race speed. On board with Gomez Jr. heading up towards La Source for the first time. Such a legendary circuit, Elliot. This run down through Eau Rouge, up over Radillon towards Les Combes, surely we're going to see loads of racing there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just an iconic corner, right? Like the amount of speed that cars are ultimately carrying coming up through this quick left into a right, back into a left. It's a pretty massive chicane, right? Like, if you can call it that. And just the speed with the amount of space on track and the constant turnings, really, it is iconic, and it sets up a lot of drivers in the past. As we see, I think that was Gomez Jr. just getting up into the back bumper of that car head. The one thing I was wondering here is with these lap times, obviously like an F1 car would be running this track at about 1 minute and 41 seconds. With these cars, obviously they don't have as much power. They're a light chassis, but it's a Formula Ford engine. I believe I could be wrong with that.
It's Formula Ford, yeah, EcoBoost. Well, I can't remember how big the engine is. It's not the most powerful engine in the world, but very efficient. And to be fair for these drivers, not too torquey, so it should be quite easy for them to drive.
What's a typical lap time that these guys are running? Do we know from
2:25 is what I would suspect we're going to see a low 25. To be fair, in slipstream we may see a 24 in this session.
So that's interesting. I was wondering, as typically in like a qualifying session, most drivers wait a little bit for the track to heat up, for the grip to lay down. Or even just wait for, a majority of the cars to go out so they don't have traffic to drive around. But I think this is actually a strategy by some of these drivers just to fall in behind Guindy and ultimately, fall into the order to be able to potentially get in the slipstream. We do have a lot of fast straightaways. We have a lot of fast corners on this track. So I think that there's actually an advantage for a lot of these drivers that are back behind it that Guindy might not have. Obviously, Guindy, we've seen him proficient at setting lap times regardless of what position he's in. Typically, he's been in the lead. For the first round, he was in the lead for a few of the sessions and ultimately ended up finishing first. But I think to the benefit of the drivers just back behind, they're able to hop into that slipstream. They don't, I don't think that they're necessarily worried about the traffic because on these long straightaways, they're going to be able to get a little bit of an advantage. Ultimately closing in, this is the front straightaway that we're seeing coming across the line. And if they're able to, make up a few tenths just to close the gap between themselves and the car ahead, that'll ultimately make them run a bit of a faster lap. So I think, Lewis, what do you think about that? Do you think that that's a bit of a strategy that these guys are deploying? They're not really, creating too much distance. They're willing to work around the traffic to, for the benefit of falling into the slipstream.
Yeah, absolutely. The thing is, around the circuit in a qualifying session, you really have to think about who you're around. By the way, it's a 160 horsepower Ford EcoBoost engine. Thank you. As they come up towards Lake Com again, Guindy set a time of a 2:25.6 there without slipstreams. That's actually quite impressive. But that time hasn't counted, at least on the tower on the left-hand side. We'll see how that unfolds coming into this. Of course, this qualifying session sets the grid for race 1, and then the race 1 finishing order sets the grid for race 2. So there is that at least. At the moment, at least on our tower on the left-hand side, it's Gomez Jr. who's topping the session on a 25.9, who we saw a little bit of contact. And the reason why I bring that up is because this is to talk to your point on working with traffic. Obviously, we saw him slipstreaming up. I think I thought it was Saxon. Obviously, Saxon set a 26.0. I don't know if it wasn't. I'm not sure who it was that he made contact with at the top coming into Lake Com. He was trying to bump draft. So obviously wasn't trying to go for a move, had picked up some slipstream and thought, look, I don't want to mess up your lap. I'm going to sit here and I'm going to try and bump draft you. I got messages from 2 people after a test race, Roy McDuff and Sven de Vries. Roy McDuff is new to the championship and Sven de Vries was in the previous round. Sven de Vries tried bump drafting Rory and then sent him straight into a wall. So I'm assuming that some drivers might try a bump draft. However, we are in open wheelers, and that's not exactly the smartest move, is it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one thing that we should, not to distract from the point that you just made, but one thing that we should point out is, we do see some of the same drivers, Sven de Vries, Gomez Jr., Saxon. A lot of these drivers are the same, but one thing that is worth mentioning is that all of these drivers actually had to qualify again for round 2. So there is and if you're interested as a viewer to watch and potentially take part in this, there is a $20 fee that you pay to skip Barber. You basically are able to enter the servers and set a qualifying lap time. And then the top 20 lap times are qualified to race in the Sunday race, which is what you guys are watching now. So what's interesting is even though we have a lot of the same driver names, we do have some new guys that were able to qualify into the field, into the top 20. But I think potentially more interesting than that, a lot of the drivers that we saw last round actually were able to re-qualify here, Lewis, and ultimately be able to continue their path in the championship. Which I think is quite, it speaks to their talent and abilities, right? Having a bigger field ultimately qualify for the second round at Spa. It is a different track. It requires obviously a lot of the same skills, but some different skills with the faster, the faster lap time, or the not necessarily lap times, but the faster, just practice on track. So I think that is also something that, I wasn't necessarily expecting, to see, much of the same field was something that I was expecting, from the get-go. But we see some new names on the board as well.
Yeah, most of them are the same. I think it's 15 drivers are the same. This round might actually be 14. Same from the previous round as they are here today. A few new ones. Highest of them was Seth Foley, who set 26.040. Currently sat in 9th position on the standings on the left-hand side, so 8 tenths off of the time that he set to get into the session. There was obviously new names like Roy McDuff. We've got Charles Baird, Jonathan Pritchard, and then a couple of others who are fresh to the championship, at least this round. Roosbay Ebadi and Parks De La Cruz, I think, are the other 2. So there are a few new names. That's the thing. That's the joy of this. We get to see some new names come into it. We would expect to see the same kind of top drivers. We actually had a conversation about this after the previous round, how with obviously the help that these drivers get from the instructors, massively helpful. Heard from various drivers, Roy McDuff and Sven de Vries, about how the testing session works. I actually had the joy to at least watch or take part in some degree to one of the testing sessions and see how the drivers learn. We're on board with Gindi now, who I think has just crossed the line to finish his final lap. So it's a 25.622 for him, and it could be a second consecutive pole at the top end. Hunter Manley not able to set a time on his outlap at the moment, and so will not set a time as the timer has already ticked down to 0. The thing is, with a session like this, 10-minute session, 2-minute 20-second lap, you've got to get your laps in early.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that Gindi, I know that you mentioned previously that he had set a fast lap. I'm not exactly sure where that came in. I know that it was a 225 something. But I don't know if he potentially had, an error on that lap where he dropped it, one wheel too many and ended up having that lap disqualified. But as we saw with the last session, Gindi's not on the tree at all, right? Like with the last qualifying session in the last round, Gindi wasn't anywhere to be seen, and then all of a sudden he's on pole position, right? Like I feel like that's his motto. He goes out and he sets one lap, and that lap is the one to beat for the rest of the drivers. So I think with Gindi, he's ultimately proven himself as the driver that is the rest of these guys want to beat, especially in the qualifying sessions. He's blazingly fast. But to go back to your point, 2 minutes and 25 seconds, 10-minute session. You don't really have that many opportunities, and especially with a very long track like this one, you make one mistake, and if it happens in the early bit of the track, in turns, let's say 5 and 6, you have another 15 turns to complete before you have to basically have an opportunity to try again, right? So with that many corners, with that much distance, that much time, you put yourself in a position where you can't make those mistakes, because the second that happens, you have, let's say you're able to put in 5 qualifying laps, if that's even possible, maybe 4, maybe 3. You have no other opportunity, right? If it's late in the session. So I think with that being said, obviously we're seeing the qualifying results now. Gindi was able to come in first, Gomez Jr. second, Saxon in third, and then Kerstetter in fourth. And one thing to mention as well is that the number plates actually get reset for this session. So these are their number plates. So Gindi has one. Obviously, he qualified first in the qualifying session for the race rounds today. So those do correlate with this track. So Kerstetter actually finishing in fourth, having qualified 10th, is actually a pretty large leap of 6 positions. And as you can see, Cadwalder dropped down to 7th, De Vries sitting in 5th. It's funny because last time we talked about him, he quoted us. He wanted to be in 5th by the end of this thing. So
it's 3rd today.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's supposed to be 3rd today, I think, is what he's aiming for anyway. So yeah, things have increased. Either way, I think we'll very quickly go to a short break before the first race of the day. Back then and ready to go racing for the Skip Barber eRace Series round number 2 at Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps after a qualifying session which put Johnny Gindi back on the top, taking 2 victories from 2 races back in Laguna Seca, starting this one from the front row. And it's going to be Gomez Jr. alongside tight stuff at the top end of the championship still. Cadwalder, who's starting this race way down in the pack. I think it's about 7th or 8th place that he's starting this one. He is second second of the championship. The lights will be on ahead of them on the run down towards La Source for the first time today. Who is going to come out on top? Currently starting then, it is going to be Johnny Guindy leading the way comfortably from Gomez Jr. Sven de Vries with an excellent start, looking down the inside at the first corner. He was telling me that he thought he got a great start prepped. And now with that one, might have taken advantage of it. Guindy, though, leading the way. It is Gomez Jr., Saxon, De Vries. I think they're still side by side as we head up towards Eau Rouge, and then up through Radion for the first time. De Vries drops back in line and into the slipstream of Saxon. Up and over the top we go. Gomez Jr. is not particularly quick there, as Saxon's going to gobble him up and pick up the slipstream of Guindy himself. So Saxon heading one way, and that is backwards down the grid. Rodriguez Meres sat behind him, and Kerstetter as well. Cadwalder only down in 8th position still, were no progress from him, as we're all chopping and changing here on board, with Gomez Jr. looking backwards towards Sven de Vries, who's not taken advantage in the same way that Saxon's done, but he is going to try and do it around the outside of Malmedy.
Wow.
Oh, that could be a fantastic move as we run down towards Ravage for the first time. He's going to have to hold it around the inside. He's gone back down the inside, though, of Saxon. Doesn't quite do it, but covers off Gomez Jr. Wow, what a move there from Sven de Vries.
Yeah, I don't even know what to say right now. The start was absolutely impeccable. Obviously, with this many cars in the field, they're all going the exact same pace, especially from a standing start. There can be collisions, but not a single one in the backfield. I've been like, this is a very rare event, and props to the drivers for that. All credit going to them. We saw coming down I would guess that's the front straightaway just after turn number 6, the back straightaway rather. We saw them go 4 wide back at in 8th, and I think Short actually pushed through to pick up a few spots there. But my goodness, this is a race being set up for us to watch. This is about as good as it gets. Obviously, the start seemed a little bit uneventful, but that is a very complicated thing to be able to navigate the traffic, especially with all those cars. And as I'm saying that, I believe that was the car of De Vries getting in behind Saxon, and I might actually have that backwards. Nope, I don't.
No,
There's
it's
De Vries.
true.
Yep, going through the 5 car of De Vries, now in second, and his eyes are being set on Guindy, who's just ahead, and it looks like Saxon might be on the inside here. He might have an opportunity, as it seems that they're coming to the field, but we'll go back to them in a second, as we're going to hop back to the 14th position of McDuff, and it looks like the 19 car just getting the inside of the 15, but 15 putting his front wheel into the inside of McDuff. He's not going to have the pace, as they're going onto the front straightaway across the line, and there is lap number 1 completed. Lewis, what an eventful start of the race.
Yeah, Rory McDuff started from the back of the grid looking for a hard charger award here, up to 14th position already, comes into it. The number 14 done a decent bit of racing around here recently as we jump up towards the battle for 4th place. Saxon leading. You can see Kerstetter as well, who I think has got by Rodriguez just through this point. Oh no, sorry, that was Saxon trying to attack Gomez Jr. So whilst this is all going, Guindy's run away at the top end. We're on board with Saxon now, trying to get past Gomez Jr. and picking up the slipstream of Sven de Vries after making that move going up towards Blanchimont and then holding it at the bus stop chicane. Sven de Vries might be into a little bit of trouble here coming in towards Les Combes. Defends a little bit to the inside. We've still got Gomez Jr. on the inside of Saxon as they're going to go side by side for the opening part of Les Combes. Saxon onto the podium. Just want to note one thing. Jablonski, who's the number 13 car, came into this in 5th in the championship after a stunning drive in race 1. Finished 3rd place. Chattini.
Oh no.
That's a shame. Fresh position and a freebie for the likes of Olivier Fortin, Pritchard, Manley, Dela Cruz, and a lot as he drops towards the back of the field. But yeah, incredible drive last round from Jablonski. Down in 11th place now. Maybe not really gelling with the circuit. The same with the likes of Cadwalder, who's down in 9th place as well. So some of the higher ups in the championship way down, whilst the man himself, Johnny Guindy, leading the field fairly comfortably. It's not so good for the championship in the early phases here.
Yeah, I think the good news here for the...
we
have a little bit of another off. It looks like that's going to be Short. Yeah, the 6 car. He's going to drop down as he's recollecting himself. That's unfortunate. I don't know exactly what happened, if there's a little bit of a collision or if he just ended up losing it there. Going back to my point, the good news here for the new drivers is with someone like Chattini in the back, if they're able to hold it together and, if they're able to get ahead of Cadwalder, ultimately they put themselves in an opportunity to finish a little bit higher in the championship. So maybe for these new guys, that's a bit of good news, as we're going to go 3 wide with Gomez Jr. It looks like Gomez Jr. is going to just drop back behind the 3 car. But oh my, this is the race for, I believe, 2nd place. And if you just take a look at the tree, Oh, we're on board with Gindi. Looks like Gindi, is this Gindi or is this, oh, that's the fastest lap rather. So Gindi set the fastest lap, and now Gomez Jr. is going to be putting it to the outside of Saxon, going into turn number 1, and he's going to stick it. Wow. A mouthful of events going on here on track. Lewis, how are you keeping track of these?
Yeah, Shorts just dropped backwards again now to last place. Felix Antoine Fortin, or at least one of the Fortins, dropped back from somewhere inside the top 10 to now outside of it. We've got a bit of side-by-side up over the top of Radion and Gomez Jr. We go on to the Camel straight once again through the Camel curve and down towards Lake Com. Gindy's clear off in the distance, 3 seconds up the road from this battle. De Vries, Saxon, Gomez Jr., Kerstetter as well, as we're going side-by-side towards the back of that. Gomez Jr. not able to get by Saxon there. Kerstetter holding position as well, a little bit off the back of that. Is Rodriguez. Cad Walder's 2.1 seconds, got himself up into 7th place at least. This is side-by-side for 16th place. Going to try and stick it around the outside of Abadi. Oh, goes for a little bit of a chop there, and Bear goes round and drops down to 19th place. Not sure, the camera angle's not exactly the best for telling us what happened there, whether it was a chop or whether it was an over-ambitious move from Abadi. But either way, on debut, Abadi getting into a little bit of contact down in 16th place, back up in the top 5. Kerstetter, the number 10 car, up in the top 5, doing a good job as well. Rodriguez Mera directly behind, and the number 9 car obviously learning very well from their instructors. I'd say Jablonski, I was criticising him a little bit earlier, got up into 8th position, courtesy of everyone else's mistake. So, obviously the instructors are teaching him how to drive very nicely. One of the advantages, the main advantage, I say, of this series is being able to learn from an actual instructor, someone who knows what they're talking about, rather than charging an awful lot of money to tell you a lot of waff. So it's nice to actually have someone basically tell you how you're doing it, how you're going wrong. We've got a bit of side-by-side heading up towards Blanchimont. I think that's going to be Gomez Jr. on the inside, making the move, sticking up into 3rd place. He goes. Nice move, pretty simple. The Blanchimont curve is not quite as terrifying in these cars as it would be in, say, a Formula 1 car. So side-by-side, and it's actually relatively easy considering the downforce and the speed that they're approaching it with the 160 brake horsepower. Ford EcoBoost engine. Gindy, another fastest lap of the race, a 25.984. A second quicker than anyone else. This car, by the way, I think we discussed it a little bit beforehand, very hard to drive, very oversteery around the circuit, which means it's going to heat up those tyres quite quickly. But we're halfway through the race. Gindy's leading comfortably. I think he's pretty happy with the setup at the moment.
I'd imagine that most of these guys are in the top gears as they go through this track. They're pretty much full pace with this EcoBoost engine. They're not shifting through gears too often unless they come to a crawling halt on a few of like the chicane corners. But I'd imagine like we're looking at Shattini, and he's in 6th gear already with an entire straightaway ahead of him, and it looks like he's going to get back up behind, I believe, was that a body, and it seems that he was potentially just catching him a little too quickly. Maybe he didn't know how far the front wing of his car was ahead, and he got up behind. One thing that I was let know was that bump drafting is not allowed, just based on the fact that these cars just can't do it in real life, and the sim is not going to allow them to do it either. So these guys have to be very careful not to get up behind the car head as that front wing just gets underneath the back end and ends up lifting it up, which is why you see the back of the car ultimately spinning out and the front just directing off into the grass. So with 6 minutes to go, one thing worth mentioning and going back to is the Skip Barber, right? This series, for a lot of these drivers, this series is about working with the driver development. Sometimes it isn't necessarily finishing on a pole position or on podium or a pole position, but ultimately bettering your qualifying and your hot lap result. As I mentioned earlier, all of these drivers had to set hot laps. Their driver numbers are corresponding with how they did in that session, in that hot lap session. And then Skip Barber actually, just as you mentioned, works with these drivers individually, as I think this is going to be Gomez Jr. going to the inside, the 4 car of Gomez Jr. on De Vries, and De Vries is now put to the outside. But yeah, Gomez Jr. going to the inside, potentially working through some of the pointers that Skip Barber gave him, as it looks like they're going to be going too wide into the final chicane, and it looks like Gomez Jr. is going to hold off onto the front straightaway coming across the line, as De Vries is just locked in back behind Gindy now with a 5.5 second lead. So with all the battling that's happening for third place, I mean, you can look in the, just behind, look at how much traffic there is in this race. I mean, this isn't a race where, you've got a guy a lap ahead. This is, Indy's 5 seconds, but just behind in second place. The battle is raging on. Not even a second between these guys, as they're pretty much bumper to bumper coming up through this next lap with just about 5 minutes to go. But as I was mentioning, with the qualifying, the hot lap result, these drivers ultimately are working with Skip Barber. And if a guy that qualified 13th finishes, third or second or fourth, if they do any better than they qualified, I think that's a win in the book of a lot of these drivers, is just developing themselves. A lot of these drivers ultimately coming from different backgrounds. And the back and forth by Gomez Jr. He looked to the inside and then he swept outside, but it looks like De Vries is now going to be looking to chase, and he's just off the back end of Gomez Jr. here. Oh my goodness, the move by Gomez to look to the inside and then flip it outside and surprise him. But it looks like Gomez is going to lose it. And now he's dropped back, to sixth position or fifth position? Oh no, for Gomez. He was looking so good right there with a few of those moves, but maybe just potentially overcooked his tires, and now he's back behind, and De Vries is in a position where now he can chase Gindy.
Yeah, I don't think he'll be able to close that 6.3 second gap over the next. It'll be 2 laps at the end of this one. So I don't think he's going to be able to close that. Just overcooked it. I did wonder if Gomez Jr. had overdone it, considering how early Sven De Vries breaks. And Sven De Vries is not the kind of driver to break early in that kind of situation. A big race. It was a great move that Gomez Jr. put on around the outside of Les Combes, gave him the perfect run through Malmedy and then down the hill towards Rivage. We're on board with Rodriguez Mera, who's moved up to the 4th position courtesy of that, as Gomez Jr. has come under attack from Saxon and Cadwalder, who's making a good run up the order. Of course, Cadwalder, we spoke in the last round that he's done some decent running in this car. Not decent running, he did a little bit in this car at Circuit of the Americas, has Cadwalder, so has a little bit of experience. Only started racing in the real world realistically last year, and is doing some great stuff. And now part of this, going to try and go down the inside is Saxon, and he's going to get that move done on Gomez Jr. as Gomez Jr. also gets jumped by Cadwalder. Oh no, not quite. Cadwalder's just there or thereabouts. 228.1 for him, so closing very quickly onto the back end of this. It is a bit of a train that's allowed De Vries to clear off. Those of you that are sitting thinking, I'm not going to tune into the next race if it's going to be like this. I had a thing from Sven De Vries who said that he was confident that if he could get near Gindy, he could start challenging Gindy. And I know the pace doesn't really seem very much, but in the slipstream you do gain quite a lot around here. So don't knock it just yet. Either way, up and over the top on board with Gomez Jr., the number 4 car in 6th position. We've got a bit of side-by-side up ahead as that Saxon getting past Rodriguez Mera for 4th. Kerstetter up the road in 3rd position. He's just a little bit clear of this battle as we look back towards Saxon, half a second off this. 1/10 clear of Rodriguez Mera as we run through Les Combes.
Oh no,
contact, no.
Oh no.
Saxon there, spun around, and now in the middle. Whoa, yeah, be careful. Let's be careful, that's Rory McDuff. Oh no. He just accelerated as there was a car coming around the circuit. Not the smartest move, unfortunately. And Rory McDuff is the one who's paid the price of that one. And I wonder if Rory McDuff has actually not spun around. He's got up to 9th position from the back of the grid. Incredible stuff from the number 14 car. We'll see if he's keeping on going. Cadwalder now in 5th place. Whilst all that's happened, Kerstetter in the number 10 has run off, using that Skip Barber instruction brilliantly. Of course, there is one thing to note about, like we said with the entry fee, you pay $20 to take part in this. You take part in the hot lap qualifier, you get into the top 20. Now, I'm sorry, but if you pay $20 to get in, the instruction is no extra cost on top of that. It is part of the qualification. Now, that to me is one of the best deals in sim racing. Like, that is an incredible offer.
Yep.
Only $20 to get that level of instruction, something that would cost an awful lot more. Hundreds and hundreds.
$20 from extra to get instruction from one of the best racing schools in the entire world.
Right.
That's a pretty good deal. I don't think you're going to find that on OfferUp or Fiverr. So that's a
Craigslist? Is that one for you? You call it Craigslist, don't you? Oh, here we go. Got a bit side by side. Cadwalder now up into 4th position. He's on a charge, isn't he, Elliot?
Look at this 2x2 as they're going to be coming down to the final corner. My goodness, it's 4 cars. It looks like Oh, and I thought Cadwalder was about to go around there, but yeah, I was just about to say, it looks like they, it looks like a formation lap more than it looks like a race. But man, 7 seconds left on the clock. I actually didn't even keep my eye on that. So this is gonna be their final lap. As we mentioned in the last round, this isn't run by a set amount of laps. It's not going to be 10 laps or 15 laps. It's going to be a set amount of time, which is 15 minutes. And depending on how many laps that they're able to get done in that 15 minutes, that's what ultimately ends up happening. And as you were talking the last lap, I was wondering to myself for a second if this would be the final lap, because we don't actually know. Obviously, these lap times take about 2.5 minutes. But as we see here, this is going to be Rodriguez, Mera going to the outside, and they might potentially go 4 wide here down the back straightaway as they're going to be coming into this corner. This is going to be absolutely crazy. I'm actually not. I think that's Jablonski just behind, looking for an opportunity here. He's going to be looking for the door to open up. And I think that's the 11, or is that the 13 card just back behind? That's Jablonski. Yes, that's Jablonski. So he didn't really have an opportunity there, but he was just waiting for the door to open for him, as all 3 of those cars were going to go wide. But it looks like Gomez Jr. is going to hold his position. And my goodness, Gomez Jr. dropping back in the order as we saw him fall behind, and it looks like he's going to find himself back in 4th position. Gomez has found himself in the position that DeFries was in last round, where he battles the entire race and somehow he works his way back up. He doesn't lose too many positions, even with that mistake. And
Jablonski.
That's Jablonski. Hopefully he doesn't collect any more drivers, as he's going to get himself back on the track. A good move to, not put himself back on the race line. As you see, he's staying to the inside, but look at Gindi coming down the straightaway, and it seems that he's in 8 seconds in the lead. So it looks like as long as he doesn't make too much of a mistake, he's going to find himself as the winner of round number 1. But my goodness, Foley's going to find himself in position, and he's going to hop up from 7th to 6th position here. But man, the racing here has been close. This is exactly what you want to see in a race. You do not want to see, every car with 5 seconds in between them, as we've seen with some series in the real world. But this is as close as it gets, as Gindi is going to be coming across the line. He found himself an 8-second lead throughout the race as everyone was battling behind him. And man, you can see it there visually as DeFries is coming in 2nd place. GG's from Gindi.
Yeah, Kersteth is going to come across in 3rd. This is Rory McDuff. I think he's got by Jablonski, as Jablonski's gone straight on at the bus stop. So Rory McDuff, 20th.
Oh no,
9th.
Jablonski.
What a drive. Yeah, Jablonski's gone way off, big style. And
the
so he's dropping
corner
backwards down the order. Yeah, I've seen that happen a couple of times, even today. But he's going to come across the line in what will be 17th. Jablonski did get across the line in 15th place. So excellent drive. Felix Anton Fortan as well. Dropped down the order, picked it back up into 8th position for Zancho Simsport. Good job from him. Cadwalder, 2nd of the championship, only 5th in this race. And Gindi then takes 3 from 3. Big stuff there. Ibadi comes and just drops it off at the exit of La Source. Crazy race. Although, like I said, for those of you sitting that are thinking that Gindi's going to run away with it again, I think Sven de Vries might have something for you, because he was telling me before this that he thinks he's figured something out when it comes to the start of this car. And I do know from personal experience of racing with Sven de Vries that he is actually pretty good on the start. He's taught me how to start a few cars over my sim racing career and has done plenty of racing around this circuit. We saw it in the test race a week ago when we did it at Laguna Seca, that give him a race car, give him a race position, and he will take you up on an offer to battle anyone, no matter how big the name. And Gindi, with a hold on the top of the championship, taking 3 race victories, I'm pretty sure he'll want to take him on.
Yeah, with Sven de Vries, obviously one thing worth mentioning here with this format is that you qualify with your hot lap, then you run in qualifying for your position on Sunday in heat number 1, which is what we just watched, and then your finishing position here, which you're seeing race 1 results. This is actually going to determine the final for today. So the starting position for the final. So that last race, there's a lot on the line just to put yourself in the right position. And for Sven de Vries, he took the position that Gomez Jr. had, which is right along the side of Gindi. Obviously, we've seen if no one is combating Gindi or putting him in a position where he has to defend and race, then he just runs away, right? It ultimately happens all over motorsports, where if the guy in first, he doesn't have anyone challenging him, he's going to be put in a position where he has all of the track ahead of him, and all he has to do is run his qualifying pace. So with de Vries on the 2nd place grid position, he will have an opportunity now. This is the opportunity that he's been talking about to fight Gindy and to bring the race back to him. The problem is that DeFries and Gindy battling could also set up Gomez Jr. or Kerstetter back behind. So we'll see that as we come into the round number 2 race final after this short break.
Welcome back to Spa then. It's time to go racing for the second time this afternoon here in the Skip Barber eRace Series Round 2 at Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps, a race which allowed Johnny Gindy to take a very, very strong position at the top of the championship, but he is going to have a hard race this time. Second position on the grid, Sven de Vries has just messaged me between races, says this is it, full attack on Gindy. So he is ready and waiting to attack. Of course, the car very oversteer. We saw a few of those drivers biting on that. Maybe there's going to be a bit of an overpush, although if there's someone that can drive an oversteering car, believe me, Sven de Vries is it. There is your race 1 results, and that would be the grid that is going to set it up. Of course, the race finishers from race 1 are going to be the race start here. So it is Gindy from de Vries at the top of the field. Gindy will be on the inside, de Vries on the outside, the run towards La Source for the first time of what should be 7 over a 15-minute race. We are underway. Not the best start from de Vries. Gindy's going to hold it nicely up towards La Source for the first time. De Vries going to try and pick the outside, maybe going to get a little bit of a dive bomb in the background from the 10 car. No, he doesn't. Just about manages to hang on. There's a spinner in the background. Number 7, 17 is well involved in that. We'll find out who was involved. It is Gindy, though. De Vries has got side by side with Gindy, and on the run down towards Eau Rouge for the first time, it's going to be de Vries leading side by side as well between Cadwalder and Rodriguez in the background. Cadwalder, I think, is going to hold firm through Eau Rouge. A cheeky bit of side by side there as Rory McDuff has got up into 6th place and is battling with the top 5. Absolute madness at the bottom end of the top 5. Gindy retakes de Vries. Massive crash in the background. Absolutely monstrous. We'll focus on the foreground, though. Oh, that's a big one. That is absolutely huge. Only the top 6 or 7 clear of that. Gindy leading de Vries, though. It's switched again up towards Les Combes, 100th between them. As we will try and focus on that. We're focusing on what's happened towards the back end. We've got Gomez Jr., Felix Antoine Fortin, Foley, Bear, Jablonski, Manley, De La Cruz and the like, all involved in this. At the top end, though, trying to go around the outside of the corner with no name. It's Sven de Vries now on the run down towards Pouon. Johnny Gindy on the inside, though, drops back into second position. De Vries said if he got there, he would fight. He is fighting. The top 6 are as one. De Vries, Gindy, Kerstetter, Cadwalder, Rodriguez and McDuff.
Wow, this is a position that Gindy hasn't been in yet in round 1 or round 2, where he is now the guy that the field back behind has their sights set on. Obviously, second place has been chasing Gindy, but now will he be able to hold it together as you're going to have an entire field trying to pass him? And look at de Vries, he's taking a note out of the Gindy book and just running away with it, and ultimately putting himself almost a second ahead. But Gindy, like I was mentioning, hasn't had to be in this position in this championship, as now the 10 car of Kerstetter is going to go to the inside of him, and now Gindy's found himself back in 3rd position. And man, will Gindy be able to hold it together here, as now he actually has to race. He's not running at a qualifying pace. The line is completely different. He looks to go to the inside. I think of Kerstetter just ahead, and he might be able
down the inside.
I think that's Gindy that got pushed out to the Is he going to drop back to 4th position? And Cadwalder's just to the inside. And now we're on Gindy. Cadwalder's just to the inside of him, or actually outside, as we're going to be coming into turn number 1, which is going to be La Source. But my goodness, DeFries told us that it could happen. All he has to do is hold it together. We've seen him in round 1 have a few mistakes of his own. So as long as he can hold it together and have endurance for the next 12 minutes, he's going to be great, as it seems that Gindy's going to be back in 2nd position, but he is not out and free of battles, as it seems to be 4 cars back behind him, and Kerstetter is chasing down as he's going to go to the outside here. I believe this is on the Kemmel straight, and I don't even know what to say. Lewis.
Cadwalder's going to try and peek it down the inside. There was definitely no room there as he drops off the circuit. Rory McDuff moves up into 4th position. Gindy side by side with Kerstetter on the run into Lake Com. I think he's going to try and stick it around the outside as the number 10 car. Oh my goodness me. Oh, who's that? Who's gone
McDuff.
off? That was Rory McDuff. Dropped down to the back. Gindy
no,
though, side by
Cadwalder.
side. Oh no, well, yeah, correct. Cadwalder, 2nd in the championship, down to 7th position. Gindy ahead of Kerstetter again. Rodriguez, McDuff still in line. McDuff not really experienced in open wheel racing, more of an endurance racer himself. Hydra Esports just qualified in 2nd position for a 24-hour of Le Mans race, also taking part elsewhere in sim racing and some big stuff himself. So definitely an esports racer up in the top 5, back on a part of this train, not really too comfortable in this car. I would say though that he could move his way up the order if he's given the opportunity, and just sort of holding station at the moment. Gindy then, with Kerstetter directly behind, had a lot of threat there from the likes behind. The thing is, we know from the previous race, Gindy in clean air can lap a second quicker than any of these guys. We've got Short and Scatini, who's moving his way back up the order after starting basically last. We know that Gindy can lap much quicker than everyone else. So as long as they're all battling, it's going to be hard for him to pull away. But look at that. He got some clean air. He's already sliced half a second out of De Vries.
Yeah, and I mean, we talked about this in the last session, right? This is a track that is very fast, and when you add traffic to the speed, it ultimately creates errors, and we saw that at the first few corners as we had a bit of a yard sale, and it seems that those you might see some sim parts on Craigslist or on OfferUp later today, as there was just a huge mess. But a good thing about sim racing is we don't have to red flag the race. If the field was completely split, we would ultimately consider it. But the good thing is that obviously no injuries, which I think if you saw a crash like that in the real world, you'd have a lot of people saying some prayers. So the good thing is everyone's back on the track. But as you mentioned, Gindy, he's in a position now, as long as the cars behind don't battle him. And as you can see visually right now, Gindy is just in between the 3rd place of Rodriguez, which, my goodness, what a story there. Gindy's got himself clean air ahead of him. And as long as Rodriguez and Kerstetter are fighting for 3rd place, Gindy might actually have an opportunity to catch De Vries, but De Vries is running away with it currently. But as you mentioned, Gindy, now, he's got a little bit of a gap to catch Sven De Vries, but as soon as he catches Sven De Vries, Sven's going to go back into battling mode. And as we saw with Gindy a little bit earlier, maybe Gindy's the better driver when he's by himself, but maybe Sven's, has a little bit more proficiency when it comes to battling head to head. And now I think that's a body going potentially from 15th to 13th. And
2 positions.
Oh, no.
Contact. There's big death. Oh my goodness. That's not very good.
Was that Jablonski again?
And Foley.
Oh no,
yeah.
Jablonski and Foley. And one thing that I noticed was that one of the saddest stories right now is that Gomez Jr. dropped back from where he was. I think he was in the top 5 all the way down to 16th at the start of this. So that's unfortunate, as we saw Gomez just being incredibly fast on this track. Very, he was battling out in the first race. So that's unfortunate. Hopefully we can see him pick up a few positions, as he was almost all the way in the back. As I say that, Kerstetter is going to lose a position to Saxon from 5th position. But oh my, look who it is in the top 5. That is McDuff. You called it earlier today. I mean, he's gone from 14th position now to the top 5. And that speaks to not only his talents, but the feedback that I'm sure that Skip Barber was able to give him, and ultimately he's developed from the place that he qualified to being able to get in front of the Skip Barber team, to work with them, to understand this track a little bit better, to understand, the car a little bit better. And now he's found himself in 4th position. And as I say that, Scatini is going to go to the inside, and now he's going to find himself in 8th position over Pritchard. So now he's going to be looking to catch up to Cadwalder in 7th position. But my oh my, we've seen a lot of changes here. DeFries going from 5th. He's going to go and put in a 2:26.9, and Gindy's going to put in a 2:26.2. So he's he's 7/10ths faster than DeFries. And now with only a 7/10ths gap to second place, DeFries is going to have to hold that position for one lap. So we might see something in the next lap between the two of them, as we're looking at Schettini now holding his position. And now going back to Gomez Jr., as I mentioned, he's found himself in 15th now. So he's picked up a few positions. This guy is crazy fast. He's one of the dark horses of the series. And now he's going to have, I think, Olivier Fortin just back behind him. He's going to be riding his bumper. And hopefully these guys can find their way to catch the just the small pack that's ahead of them, because both of these drivers are incredibly fast and incredibly talented, and they deserve it. So hopefully they don't battle just too much. Obviously, position matters, but catching the top 10 is more important for points here. I believe that's top 10 get offered points. Is that right?
I think it's everyone gets points who finishes.
Everyone does. Okay.
Yes, 35 points for the victor, which obviously this time, 3 times a season, has gone to this man, Johnny Gindy, the number 1 top qualifier, both of the pre-qualifiers, the hot lap qualifiers, pole position twice, 3 times a race winner in the Skip Barber eRace series, now staring down the barrel of a gun of a 4th victory. They're going to have 3 laps at the end of this one. 2.5-minute lap is slightly under, which means that we do 7 laps across the course of the race. Of course, the battle of the background for 3rd position for the podium, definitely not over. Rodriguez, McDuff, Saxon and Kerstetter. Cadwalder's just about within the mix for that. If they start battling quite hard, that's where things will get interesting. Of course, we're coming through Stavolo and then towards Curve Paul Frere.
He's got the slipstream. He's got the slipstream.
Gindy is going to be ahead at the start-finish line. I'll quite happily call that now. But who's going to be ahead when it comes down towards Les Combes? I have absolutely no idea. Sven de Vries, the number 5 car, leading. We look backwards, run through Blanchimont. A nice little lift there from Gindy. I think he's going to wait until the bus stop chicane to try and maybe throw something down the inside or outside. Maybe more back out of the... it's going to be Gindy leading this time because he's backed off of that. I think he wants to make a move into Les Combes. The thing with this race is, in these cars you have to be very, very tactical. You need to make a move where you're not going to be able to get repassed. I distinctly remember Kimi Räikkönen and someone battling a long time ago as Saxon and McDuff changed positions in the background, and McDuff down to 5th position was trying to battle with someone an entire race, and every time he made a move the other guy would repass him, and he was never patient enough to think, I'm going to wait and I'm going to pass you now, and I'm going to try and think about when I'm going to pass it. Gindy is waiting to get by into Les Combes so he can run off through the S section, through the central twisty bit, and try and gain himself that position fully, and not just allow Sven de Vries to slipstream back through. We look back towards P5 at the moment. We've got McDuff currently focused on your screen. Saxon just ahead of him. A little bit of slipstream coming the way of Rory McDuff through Eau Rouge once again. And Rory McDuff, who was victorious at this venue, Gindy is past Sven de Vries. De Vries trying to slipstream his way back through, but at Les Combes it is going to be Gindy leading 1/10 as they hit the apex of that corner. Saxon does lead McDuff. A little bit of touch, a little bit of slide through the outside of Malmedy. Sven de Vries maybe trying to pick up the lead once again. He's going to have to do it at Ravage. He's already done it looking down the inside. Johnny Gindy, not quite enough. The number 5 de Vries is going to head the field again then. So wasn't enough for Gindy, the wise man of Sven de Vries. Maybe using that excellent racecraft to his advantage and still holding the lead.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the racecraft really comes down to it. It seems that Gindy was driving a bit of a defensive line. Obviously, as you mentioned, the second that you start battling, right? The second that you start looking to the inside, or you make a pass that, let's say these guys are passing into like La Source or Rouge, you have to imagine that by the time they get into turns 2 and 3, they're already in 5th and 6th gear. So the best opportunity for passing, and where drivers don't really have an opportunity to make a move again, is on the front or back straightaway. Get into the draft, catch up, use their acceleration of the car ahead to ultimately create a slipstream so you can propel past them, and then you're in position at the end of that straightaway to make a pass, to basically lead into that next corner. It is really important not to make a pass into something like the bus stop, because ultimately it's a drag race coming out of it, right? And then you're putting yourself in the position for the next corner because neither of the cars have slipstream. They're just drag racing. Oh, and Giddy gets a little bit loose there, but you're just drag racing, which by the time you get to the corner, one of those cars is not on the racing line, right? So you're picking up dirt, you're picking up the marbles that are coming off of the tire, and then you put yourself in a position where you're driving a very awkward line, and McDuff is going to drop back to 7th. Oh, that's terrible. Oh no,
he's off somewhere. He is down in 8th position now. Something's happened at bus stop for him.
Man, that was a 6-second lead that between 7th and 8th position. So it seems that he fell back quite a bit. So that's unfortunate for McDuff, but hopefully he can get his paces back and hold it back together, as it looks like he's just going to be right on the back bumper of Pritchard in 8th position. So that's, unfortunate. As you see, not too much traffic just ahead of them. So there's a bit of a gap between, I believe that's 7th and 8th position to Scattini. But Kerstetter is now actually going to go past Cadwalder up into 5th position. So he's going to hold the position that McDuff once held. But one person that I think we should focus on here is Rodriguez in the 9 car. Qualified 9th, and now he's in 3rd position, just ahead of Saxon. And Kerstetter just losing it a little bit there. Cadwalder's going to go back, and he's going to have to cut the track there to hold it together. I think if he tried holding it on the racing line there, he maybe got on the brakes a little bit late, but if he tried collecting that, he would be in a much worse position than he is now. So he's just going to fold back behind into 6th position, back behind Cadwalder. But Rodriguez Mera in qualifying 9th and now in 3rd position. We've seen him. He's been a bit of a dark horse in round number 1 and round 2. We haven't really focused on him too much, but there he is, 3rd position, just behind Gindy. You see him with the yellow fins on his car. He's catching up back behind, and he's in a position where he has clean air ahead of him. Will a bit of that Skip Barber training come into play here, as he's going to follow in behind one of the fastest guys that we have in this series, which is going to be Gindy. He's going to be able to watch his racing line if he can keep it in and close. And if these guys battle, the Freeze and Gindy, there is going to be an opportunity for Rodriguez Mera to actually catch up and potentially put himself ahead in a higher podium position, or in a finishing position. So he could find himself in 2nd or 1st place, only 2 seconds behind. But as you can see with this backwards facing camera on Sven de Vries's car, that's Rodriguez off in the distance. That's him. The not the red car immediately behind, but the one just behind that. And as these guys are going to battle here, 20 seconds left. This is our final lap. Lewis, will we see Rodriguez potentially finding an opportunity here?
It could well be. He hasn't scored a point in the previous round. He is 0 for 0 on the championship coming into Spa. And now, potentially, with a strong hand on a podium and maybe the potential for something more. One final lap around the 4.3-mile circuit to Spa-Francorchamps. We're currently on board with Johnny Gindy, our championship leader, 3-time race winner in the Skip Barber eRace series, as we run through Eau Rouge and up through Radion. One final time picking up the slipstream. You're going to see De Vries probably wiggle and waggle, maybe hit the right-hand side of the road, trying to drag the slipstream over to that hand side, going to make Johnny Gindy do all the hard work and go around the outside of Les Combes. But Gindy's gone onto the grass, onto the inside. He's going to be pinched there a little bit by Sven De Vries, who's going to try and hang it all the way around the outside of Les Combes. Is a little bit over too much on the brakes from Johnny Gindy. Gindy has got the position up into the race lead. Sven De Vries tried covering it off. It wasn't quite enough. And Johnny Gindy up into the lead of the race. Can Sven De Vries respond in any way in that number 5 car? It is looking like it's going to be ones across the board for Johnny Gindy unless Sven De Vries can do something about it. 2 pole positions, 3 race victories, 2 top qualifier spots from Johnny Gindy, looking for his 4th consecutive victory in the Skip Barber eRace series. Sven De Vries dropping back already. I don't think he's got anything for him. We'll have to wait and see how the slipstream works out of Stavelot, and on the run down towards the bus stop chicane through Blanchimont in between that. It's been a great drive from De Vries though. Don't take that away from him. Rodriguez as well, 1.3 seconds off the back of this. Saxon in a little world of his own, and Cadwalder came into this 2nd of the championship. Not had the best Spa event, came into its 2nd qualifier as well. Only 5th position, 1.4 seconds off of the back of Saxon. Could gain something unless he loses something to Kerstetter. It looks like Johnny Gindy, though, is in a prime position to take that 4th consecutive victory. I think that slipstream is going to be pretty hard fought for Sven De Vries. It was a great race, a well-timed, aggressive move from Johnny Gindy, and dived it down the inside and, gained that position beautifully. It was a tough defence that Sven De Vries put up. Coming through the bus stop chicane then, Wow, it is the big one. The number one on top 4 times consecutively, and that is another race victory then for Johnny Gindy. Sven de Vries in second position. Good stuff from the top 2. Rodriguez as well, the number 9, like I said, came into this with a big old goose egg, but manages to stick a good few points on the board. There's 30 from this one alone. We're looking at the back end of the top 10. We've got the battle between Dela Cruz and Short. Short going to maybe go for a move down into the bus stop chicane for the final time. I think it's quite close enough. Yeah, Dela Cruz going to try and stick it. Short going to go for a cutback, maybe going to go for a second cutback on the final part. It's not really going to work as he's not going to be close enough. They're going to come up towards the line. I think it's going to be Dela Cruz holding the position as someone is deciding to ruin all of the gardener's work and just spread the grass all over the place. McDuff, by the way, backed up into 8th position. Yeah, that's got past Pritchard, so did manage to control his tyres a little bit after the end of that.
I think that speaking to Gindy, we were talking about how de Vries might have more racecraft, but he proved us wrong as he looked to the outside onto the Kemmel Straight going into Les Combes, and he ultimately showed us that he faked the drive to the outside. Sven de Vries made his move to block, which he drove back ultimately to the racing line. As you saw, he was like all the way down on the right side off of the racing line, and ultimately Gindy faked it, drove back to the inside and almost into the grass and made the pass. We've seen that with plenty of other drivers. I know Sebastian Vettel was able to do it a few years back where he drove around the outside in the grass, but maybe Sven de Vries drove that a little too defensive. Maybe if he held the racing line the entire time and just slipped in back behind and let Gindy have that position, there may have been a little bit of a closer finish there, and he may have found himself another opportunity. But, Sven knows that Gindy's very fast on this track, and he tested him to see if he had the wits to be able to make that pass, and Gindy proved it. He said, yep, that's easily done, and he went to the outside. So as we see, Gindy coming back from battling for third to now being in first position. We saw him drop back when Sven de Vries went to the inside. Gindy dropped back just a little bit. So Gindy finishing the race in first position. Sven de Vries unable to hold on to it, finishing 9/10 just back behind. Rodriguez Mera finishing in the top 3. A fantastic story there, as you mentioned. He didn't have the greatest finish in round 1, but look at him. He's on he's on the podium now in third position, and that really speaks to the development that he's been able to do himself as a driver, but also Skip Barber, really, giving him pointers, working with him, helping him develop. And maybe he found a cheat code or two, so to speak, and that was able to help him, ultimately develop his own driving ability. Saxon dropping back to 4th position, and sadly, Cadwalder qualifying rather, 2nd position, finishing in 5th. But Kerstetter in a better predicament, finding himself 4 positions. So now he's in 10th. We saw him battling quite a bit for the 4th and 3rd position, but he's going to finish back in 6th, which is still better than 10th, where he qualified initially. McDuff, who was in the top 5 at a certain point, he's going to be dropping back to 8th, but better yet is his, better than his 14th position qualifying. So, Lewis, we saw some great battles there that throughout that race. So a lot of drivers, obviously, at the very beginning, we saw a bit of a yard sale and some crashing going on. But man, what an eventful second heat race final.
Yeah, Gindy coming out on top once again. Of course, coming in as the number 1, you'd almost expect it from him. But de Vries put up a valiant effort to try and stop that and put pay to that. I actually don't think Sven de Vries defended enough. He tried defending coming out of Kemmel Curve onto the Kemmel Straight, but then sort of left the door open a little bit, and Gindy was like, oh, do you know what, I could handle the right hand side of the circuit and the inside line into Les Combes. I can do with a bit of that, and so took advantage of that absolutely beautifully. Of course, though, qualifying, you can enter now. Qualifying opens on Monday, tomorrow, for the next round. The thing is, though, not at Spa. This time we're headed to the Daytona International Speedway Road Course, so the one that hosts the 24-hour of Daytona. Going to be a great one, that, because again, same sort of style as this. A lot of slipstreaming, a lot of effort on that front. That is going to be a quality round. Thank you to everyone at Skip Barber as well, who's helped out all of the drivers to provide us some great racing. Because without their efforts from the instructors, I think maybe we would have seen a race that was even more spread out than what we got. Either way, we'll be back in a week's time, and I'm sure it'll be both me and you, Elliot. Again, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to see more competitive driving, in the races. I'm happy to see some new names show up in the series, and some of the same names. The storylines are really drawing themselves out, which is always good for us in the commentary booth. But as we mentioned earlier, you could be one of these drivers for a $20 qualifying cost. If you make it into the top 20, you can work with the Skip Barber driver development team and ultimately find yourself as one of these drivers. If you can prove your way, you can make it. And all it takes is a fast lap within the top 20. So make sure you go to skipbarber.com and qualify and sign up. And hopefully we'll see you here for the next round at Daytona, is it?
Indeed, Daytona it is. So we'll see you in a week's time. Go and get yourself qualified and join the 20-car grid. Until then, thank you very much for tuning into the Skip Barber eRace series, and we'll see you in a week.